Before I begin, let me warn you, some stories don't slowly walk into your life. Some crash into you like a storm you never saw coming. And this was the day everything I believed about my life shattered into pieces. If you stay with me, you'll understand why nothing would ever be the same again. That Tuesday morning in Atlanta started like every other morning. A quiet sun, warm enough to calm the world, slipped through my kitchen window. I was wiping down the table while my 3-year-old son, Jabari, sat on the floor, building his usual towers with his colorful blocks. His laughter filled the house, the kind of sound that makes a mother feel safe, loved, and grounded. My life wasn't dramatic. It wasn't glamorous. It was simply ordinary. My husband, Solani, ran a small construction firm that he claimed was still growing. I trusted him. I believed every word he said. He was my first love, the only man I ever thought would hold my heart forever. For 5 years, I had given everything to our home. I had left my job when Jabari was born, promising myself that I would be the mother who was always there. I cooked, cleaned, stretched money where there wasn't enough, and stayed quiet even when Solani came home distant or irritated. I never complained. Supporting him felt like the right thing to do. But on that morning, without warning, fate tapped me on the shoulder. While cleaning, I found a wrinkled Mega Millions lottery ticket stuck between a grocery list and an old bill. I remembered buying it the previous day, only because an elderly woman insisted I take a chance. I had bought it just to be polite. Smiling at my own silliness, I opened my phone to check the winning numbers. Just for fun, I told myself. Just a moment of curiosity. 5, 12, 23. I froze. My heart thumped so loudly I could hear it in my ears. My ticket had those exact numbers. 34, 45, Megaball, 5. I dropped onto the kitchen floor. I had won. Not a little. Not enough to brag about. $50 million. For a full minute, I couldn't move. My breath shook, my hands trembled, and my mind spun. Then, slowly at first and then all at once, joy exploded inside my chest. My son's future could be secure. Our lives could change forever. Solani wouldn't have to work himself to the bone. We could finally breathe. My first thought, my only thought, was to share it with him, to show him that our sacrifices had finally been rewarded. I grabbed Jabari in my arms, kissed his forehead, and whispered, "Baby, everything is about to change." I didn't know then that the change waiting for me wasn't the one I imagined, and what I was about to hear would destroy the woman I used to be. Before we go further, let me prepare you. Some discoveries don't break you instantly. They break you slowly, breath by breath, as the truth sinks like ice into your bones. And what I was about to witness was something no wife, no mother, no human deserves to see. With the winning ticket safely tucked inside my purse, I held Jabari tight and rushed outside to get a ride. I remember the world looking brighter than usual, the trees greener, the sky clearer, even strangers smiling as if they already knew my life had just changed forever. My heart was full and hopeful. I imagined my husband lifting me into his arms when I told him the news. "Mommy has the best surprise for Daddy," I whispered to Jabari. He laughed and nodded, unaware of the storm waiting ahead. When we reached the small office building where Solani worked, I stepped out with confidence, excitement, and a little nervousness. This place wasn't just his workspace. It was our shared dream. I had spent nights helping him build plans, handling documents, and believing every promise he made about our future. I walked in with Jabari on my hip. The receptionist, who always greeted me kindly, smiled brightly. "Morning, KT. Come to see Mr. Jones?" I nodded, trying to hide the joy bubbling in my voice. "I have something wonderful to share with him." She hesitated for the briefest second. Actually, I think he might have someone in there. I haven't seen who, but—" Before she could finish, I waved playfully. "No worries. I want it to be a surprise. A harmless surprise." At least that's what I thought. As I walked down the hallway, my heart beat faster, not with fear, but with excitement. My hand reached for the door, which was slightly open, and just as my knuckles lifted to knock, a sound slipped through the gap. A laugh. A soft, playful, intimate laugh. A woman's laugh. I froze. My body went stiff. My breath locked in my chest. A chill crawled down the back of my neck. Then I heard his voice. My husband's voice, but not the tone he used with me. This was softer, warmer, a tone filled with a kind of affection he hadn't shown me in years. "Come here. Don't rush," he said. "She's too clueless to notice anything anyway." Clueless. That word stabbed me deeper than I expected. I stepped back, my hands trembling so much I almost dropped my son. I pressed myself against the wall, trying to breathe, trying to understand. Then the woman spoke again, and my heart dropped to my feet. "Are you sure she'll fall for your plan? What if she finds out?" His answer was cold, confident. "She won't. She never does." At that moment, something inside me cracked, and what I heard next changed everything forever. Before I tell you what came next, prepare your heart, because some truths don't just hurt. They slice through you so sharply that for a moment you don't even feel the wound. You only feel the silence after it. I stood there frozen, my back pressed against the cold wall, holding Jabari so tightly I was afraid I might hurt him. My hands were shaking. My lips felt numb. I kept hoping, praying that maybe I was misunderstanding everything. Maybe I was imagining things. Maybe the voice I heard wasn't hers. Maybe the laugh wasn't his. But deep down, I knew. Their voices were low, intimate, the kind of closeness I hadn't heard between us in a long time. I closed my eyes, hoping the next words would prove me wrong. Instead, the universe delivered the final blow. "Don't worry," the woman whispered. "She won't fight back. She believes everything you say." My stomach twisted. I felt sick, and then my nightmare turned into something far darker, because now it wasn't just cheating, it was plotting. My husband's voice came next, calm and cold. "She's easy to manipulate. Once she signs those papers, we'll be free." I nearly dropped my child. Papers? Manipulate? Free? I pressed my palm over Jabari's ear, my heart pounding so loudly it felt like it would burst through my chest. I held still, not breathing, not moving, as if my body instinctively knew that making a sound would ruin everything. Then the voice of the woman, Zahara, slid through the air like poison. "And her savings. Are you sure she won't use them against you?" Savings. The money I had trusted him with. The money I believed was still safe. His response shattered what little hope I had left. "She doesn't have anything left. I made sure of that. She put everything into that insurance policy for the boy. Perfect timing." Insurance. For our child. Money I gave up to protect our family, now used to destroy me. My throat closed. Tears blurred my vision. Jabari, sensing my fear, buried his face into my neck. I held him tighter, desperate to shield him from a world that suddenly felt cruel and unsafe. And then, like a knife, came the words that killed the woman I had been. Once I pressure her with those fake company debts, she'll panic and sign. She'll walk away with nothing. Fake debts. He had planned this. He had planned all of it. I felt my knees weaken. The world spun. My heartbeat roared in my ears like thunder. My entire marriage, 5 years of love, sacrifice, trust, collapsed in one single moment. And just when I thought it couldn't get worse, I heard the sound that confirmed everything. The rustling of clothes, the soft moans, the unmistakable intimacy of betrayal happening right behind that door, right in front of my heart. But what came next? That was the moment my tears stopped, and something else awakened in me. Before we step deeper, let me tell you something honest. There is a moment in a woman's life when her heart simply stops being soft, not because she wants it to, but because the world forces it. And right there, standing outside that office door, I felt that moment hit me like a silent explosion. I should have cried, I should have screamed, I should have burst into that room and torn everything apart. But strangely, I didn't. Something inside me froze. Not the kind of freeze that comes from fear. This was colder, sharper. A freezing calm that whispered, "Listen, don't move. Learn what monsters sound like." With Jabari asleep on my shoulder, breathing softly against my neck, I stayed hidden and kept listening. My heart was breaking, but my mind was waking up for the first time. After their disgusting noises faded, their voices returned. The woman's tone turned serious. What if she asks questions? What if she refuses the divorce? My husband's voice, steady, confident, heartless, replied, "She won't refuse anything. She's desperate to keep the family together. And once she sees the fake financial reports, she'll crumble." Fake, financial, reports. So he had planned everything. He had built a trap around my life and expected me to walk into it smiling. "And the child?" Zahara asked. Her voice was almost bored, as if she were asking about a piece of furniture. My heart clenched. No mother should ever hear her child discussed like an object. "He'll stay with her, for now," Solani replied casually. Then he added, cold enough to freeze the air around me, "When things settle, if I want him, I'll take him. Take him, my baby, my whole world, my reason to breathe." Something snapped inside me, not loudly, not dramatically, just a quiet break, like a small, sharp crack in glass right before it shatters completely. No more tears spilled down my cheeks, no more shaking, no more weakness. That was the second my love for him died. I looked down at Jabari's peaceful face and thought, "You will never fall into the hands of a man like that, not while I'm alive." The lottery ticket in my pocket suddenly felt heavier, no longer a blessing, but a weapon, a lifeline, a shield, and maybe the sharpest sword I would ever hold. I stepped back silently, wiping my tear-stained face with the back of my hand. I had walked into that building as someone's wife. I walked out as someone reborn. But the real test was waiting at home, because the next move I made would decide whether I saved my son or lost everything. Before I take you home with me, let me tell you one truth. Sometimes you walk away from a moment, but the moment doesn't walk away from you. It clings to your chest, your skin, your breath. And as I left that office building with my son in my arms, I knew I was no longer the same woman who had walked in just minutes before. The receptionist looked confused when she saw me leaving so quickly. "KT, you didn't see Mr. Jones?" I forced a shaky smile, the kind that barely holds your face together. I just remembered something important. I'll come again tomorrow. My voice was trembling, but not with sadness anymore. It was controlled, calculated. A woman learning to hide fire under her skin. Outside, I called another ride and stepped inside the car. The moment the door closed, everything I was holding inside exploded. Silent tears first, then heavy sobs, the kind that pull pain out of the deepest parts of your chest. Jabari slept through it all, his small body curled against mine, completely unaware that his entire world had just been threatened. By the time the car reached our street, I felt like I had cried out the last piece of the old me. I wasn't healed, not even close, but I had shed the woman who trusted blindly, who apologized for existing, who believed love was enough. That version of me died in the back seat of that car. Inside the house, I laid Jabari gently on the bed, kissed his soft cheek, and went straight to the bathroom. I didn't turn on the lights. I just slid down the wall and sat on the cold floor. The hum of the running tap covered the sound of my crying. Every memory of my marriage flashed before me. Our first date, our wedding, the nights I stayed awake beside him when he fell sick, the sacrifices I made believing I was building a future. All of it, lies. Broken pieces of a story I had written alone. But then, something shifted. My tears slowed, my breathing steadied, and a strange, sharp clarity appeared, a clarity I had never felt before, the kind that comes only when a woman reaches the end of her breaking point. I stood up, looked at my reflection, a pale face, puffy eyes, but behind them, something new, determination, a fire, a promise. The lottery ticket, safe in my pocket, was no longer just money. It was protection. It was freedom. It was justice. And for the first time in years, I looked at myself and whispered, "You will not lose. Not your son. Not your life. Not again." I dried my face, because the next step, the person I would tell first, would determine everything. Before we move into the storm that's coming, pause with me for a moment, because every story, every life, has an interval, a place in the middle where everything goes still, where the universe gives you one deep breath before it shakes your world again. This is that breath. After the chaos of the morning, after the truth sliced through my chest like a knife, the house felt strangely silent, too silent, the kind of silence that feels heavy, like it's holding its breath with you. I stood in my living room, arms folded tightly across my chest, staring at nothing and everything at the same time. Every lie Solani had told me played in my mind like a broken movie reel. Every excuse, every cold night, every argument I had ended by saying, "I'm sorry," even when it wasn't my fault. But now, something inside me was shifting. This was not the silence of a broken woman. It was the silence of a woman planning. I walked to the kitchen and sat at the table, the same table where I had eaten meals with a man who was secretly destroying me, where I had poured my heart out, where I had prayed for his success, not knowing he was praying for my downfall. I took out the lottery ticket and placed it gently on the table. Just looking at it made my chest tighten. This tiny piece of paper held $50 million, enough to rebuild my life, enough to protect my son, enough to turn the tables completely. But it also held something else, danger. Because if a man like Solani discovered it, he would take it, he would use it, he would crush me with it. I knew that now. The silence around me grew deeper, almost echoing. Jabari's soft breathing from the bedroom reminded me why I had to stay strong, why I couldn't collapse no matter how badly I wanted to. This was the middle of my story, the turning point, the moment where pain stops being pain and becomes purpose. I made tea but didn't drink it. Instead, I wrapped my hands around the warm cup and closed my eyes, letting the heat steady me. This interval wasn't about healing. It was about preparing for the confrontation, for the lies he would tell when I looked him in the eyes, for the masks he would wear, for the battle I had never imagined I'd have to fight. And somewhere inside me, another truth formed. He thought I was weak. He thought I was naive. He thought I was already defeated. He had no idea who I was becoming. As the clock ticked loudly on the wall, I made a silent promise to myself I would not walk into his trap, I would not sign anything, and I would not let him take my child. The interval was over, because the moment he walked through that door, the real game would begin. Before I take you into this moment, understand one thing. There is a special kind of silence that comes right before a confrontation. It's not fear. It's not weakness. It's the silence of a woman who is done crying and finally ready to think. That was me when I heard the front door unlock. The sound echoed through the house like a warning, like the universe whispering, "Stay sharp. This is where the story changes." My heart wasn't pounding anymore. It was steady, calm, too calm. I wasn't the same woman he left in the morning. He had no idea what version of me he was about to meet. Solani walked into the living room with his usual forced tiredness, shoulders slumped, pretending to be the hard-working, exhausted husband. He even rubbed his forehead dramatically, as if life was unfair to him. His performance would have convinced me yesterday. Not today. He glanced at me and smiled that gentle smile he used whenever he wanted to hide something. "Hey, babe. You okay? You look a little drained." A hook twisted in my chest, anger mixed with disgust, but I hid it under a calm expression. "I'm fine," I replied, voice steady. "Just had a long day."
He took off his jacket and stretched. "You won't believe the stress I'm dealing with," he said, walking toward me. The lies rolled so easily off his tongue. "Oh, really?" I asked softly, pretending to sound caring. "What kind of stress?" He sighed deeply like a man carrying the weight of the world. "The business things aren't good. I might need you to sign a few papers soon to protect us." There it was. The trap. The plan. The same words he told the other woman just hours earlier. I stared at him, this stranger I once loved, and watched the mask he wore so proudly. A mask built on lies, manipulation, and fake concern. "Papers?" I asked. "What kind of papers?" He stepped closer, lowering his voice like he didn't want to worry me. "Just small financial documents. You don't need to think too much about it." Perfect line. Practiced. Rehearsed. A lie dressed as protection. But today, I wasn't the woman who nodded blindly. Today I looked him in the eye and said, "I want to understand everything before I sign anything." For a split second, his expression changed, barely noticeable but unmistakable. A twitch in his jaw. A flicker of irritation. A flash of panic. He quickly forced a smile. "Of course. I'll explain it all later." But I saw the truth in that tiny slip. He did not want me asking questions. He did not expect me to think. He did not expect a different woman standing in front of him. And then he made a mistake. He walked toward Jabari's room. Something in my chest froze. A protective instinct so strong it almost made me step forward. Because I realized something terrifying. He wasn't just planning to take my money. He was planning to take my child. And what he said next confirmed it. Before you hear what he said, breathe with me for a moment because some sentences don't sound dangerous at first. They sound normal, casual, even gentle. But behind them hides a darkness you never expected. That's exactly what I felt when he stepped toward Jabari's room. His footsteps were slow, calm, confident. The type of calm a man has when he thinks he's in control. I followed him with my eyes, every muscle in my body tightening. A strange instinct rose inside me. Sharp, protective, almost animalistic. A mother's instinct. He placed his hand on the doorframe and looked at the sleeping child inside. Then he said, almost in a whisper, I'm glad he's asleep. He won't feel the changes that are coming. A sentence. Just a sentence. But to a mother's ears it sounded like a warning. I swallowed hard. What changes? I asked, keeping my voice steady. He didn't turn around. Instead, he leaned slightly closer to Jabari's bed and said, "Kids adapt. As long as I handle things right, he'll be fine." Handle things right. Those words crawled under my skin like cold needles. I stepped forward, my heart hammering. "Solani, what are you talking about?" He finally turned to look at me. His expression wasn't loving. It wasn't soft. It wasn't even fake caring. It was calculated. "There might be a phase," he said slowly, "where he stays with me more than you. Just until everything settles." My chest tightened so painfully I almost lost my breath. "With you?" I asked, barely holding my voice steady. He shrugged casually. "It's better for him. Stability. Structure." "My lawyer said." I didn't let him finish. "Your lawyer?" The words slid out of my mouth like fire. He blinked, realizing he slipped. "I mean, just basic advice. Nothing serious." But I had already seen the truth. He wasn't just planning a financial trap. He was preparing a custody trap. My vision blurred for a moment. Not from sadness. From anger. Silent, steady, controlled anger. I stepped closer to him, lowering my voice so Jabari wouldn't hear. "What exactly did your lawyer tell you about my son?" His jaw tightened. "You're overreacting. I'm protecting the future." "Whose future?" I asked. For the first time since he walked in, his eyes flickered. He saw it. The change in me. The fire. The steady refusal to play his game. He opened his mouth to speak, but before he could, my phone buzzed on the table. A message. A name I hadn't seen in a long time. Someone who never contacted me unless it was serious. My entire body stiffened. It was a message that would pull the truth out from the walls and expose everything he was hiding. The first line on the screen made my heart stop. "Katie, I need to warn you. It's about Solani. Before I show you what was written in that message, let me tell you this, truth doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it arrives quietly, in the form of a vibration on your phone, carrying words powerful enough to destroy every lie around you." My hand shook as I picked up the phone. Solani was still standing near Jabari's room, watching me carefully, trying to read my expression. But I didn't look at him, not yet. My eyes stayed glued to the name on the screen. Talia. A woman I hadn't spoken to in almost 2 years. She had once worked with Solani, before she suddenly resigned and vanished. And now she was texting me? I opened the message slowly, my heartbeat thundering in my ears. "KT, please listen. I shouldn't be saying this, but I can't stay quiet anymore." My breath caught in my throat. He's planning something big and dangerous. I heard things when I worked with him, things about your marriage, your child, and money. A cold wave rushed down my spine. Before I could read more, Solani stepped closer, voice too calm. "Who is it? Everything okay?" I turned slightly away from him, protectively shielding the screen. "It's nothing," I answered. "Just someone checking in." His eyes narrowed. He didn't believe me. I locked the phone and walked to the kitchen, creating distance. He followed slowly, watching me like a hawk. The air between us grew heavier with every step he took. When I reached the counter, I unlocked the phone again and continued reading. "He's been planning to separate you from your savings for months. He talked about getting full control. He told someone, once she signs, she's out of my way." My stomach twisted. These were the same words I heard at his office. The same trap. The same scheme. But then, the next line changed everything. "KT, he also mentioned a woman named Zahara. Please be careful." My fingers tightened around the phone. My breath froze. She knew. She knew the name. That meant this wasn't an affair that just started. This wasn't a moment of weakness. This was a long-term betrayal. A planned replacement. A pre-written ending. And then the final part of the message came. The part that pulled the ground from beneath my feet. "There is something else I never told you. Something about Jabari. You need to hear it in person." In person? A chill ran through me so hard I almost dropped the phone. I looked up and found Solani standing right behind me, too close, too quiet, too aware. He smiled. But this time, I finally saw what was behind that smile. Fear. Not mine. His. And then, like he sensed something slipping out of his control, he said the words that made the room spin. KT, we need to talk tonight. I have papers ready for you. Papers. The exact trap. The climax had begun. And the truth Talia needed to tell me would turn this entire story upside down. Before I take you into the final moment, let me tell you one thing. There comes a point in every story where the truth no longer whispers. It roars. And when that roar finally hit my life, it didn't just shake the walls of my home. It rebuilt the woman inside them. After reading Talia's message, I made one decision. I was done being scared. I was done being silent. I was done being his victim. I messaged her back immediately. Tell me everything. Now. She replied almost instantly. Meet me at the cafe near Pine Street. Don't take him with you. And don't tell him. With my heart hammering, I grabbed Jabari's small jacket and held him close. Not because he needed comfort. Because I needed his warmth to steady myself. Solani watched me sharply. Where are you going? To get air, I said coldly. You stay here. He stepped forward, trying to control the moment as usual. We're supposed to talk tonight. The papers. I lifted my chin. Those papers can wait, I said. My life can't. For the first time ever. He didn't know how to reply. I walked out without looking back. At the cafe, Talia was already waiting, her eyes filled with guilt and fear. When she saw me holding Jabari, tears rushed into her eyes. Katie, I'm so sorry, she whispered. Tell me, I said. And she told me everything. How Solani had been forging financial documents for months. How he had drained my savings quietly. How he planned to push fake debts onto me. How Zahara had been part of his plan long before I suspected anything. How they planned to take full custody if I fought back. And then the final blow. KT. He wasn't planning to divorce you next month or next year. He was planning to do it next week. And once he had full access to your accounts, you were supposed to walk away with nothing. He even bragged. He said you were too soft to fight. Soft. The word that used to describe me died right there. I felt something shift inside me. Not anger. Not fear. Power. Pure, unstoppable power. I thanked Talia. I hugged her. And then I walked out into the cold evening air with my son in my arms and a fire in my chest no storm could ever put out. When I reached home, Solani tried to talk. He tried to fool me. He tried every lie, every trick, every fake tear he had ever used on me. But I simply looked at him with calm eyes and said, your plan ends tonight. And my life begins. I took my son. I took my lottery ticket. I took my strength. And I walked away. Not broken. Not scared. Not weak. But reborn. Because sometimes a woman's real story doesn't begin when she falls in love. It begins when she finally chooses herself. If this story touched your heart, if you felt her pain, if you felt her strength rising, backhand index pointing right follow for more stories that open eyes, heal hearts, and remind every woman and mother of her power. Backhand index pointing right, like, share, and comment, I choose myself. If you want part 2 of her new life, your support keeps these powerful stories alive.